Hello, everyone, and welcome to our eighth episode of Bikinis After Babies. I am so excited to bring you this episode today. We have a very special guest. But first, I am your co host, Mandy Rashawn, here with your other fabulous host.
Hey, everybody. I'm Gillian Hughes. I just want to thank you for tuning in to our eighth episode. I'm really excited to bring our special guest today. Sarah is someone that I had the pleasure of meeting backstage several years ago. She is an IFBB Bikini Pro from Columbus, Ohio. She's a wife and a mother of two. Sarah has been competing for 4 years, beginning her journey in 2019 and winning her pro card at Masters Nationals in July of 2023, taking home first place in the 35 plus category. Sarah openly shares her journey and her ups and downs on her social media, and I'm really excited to hear about how she juggles motherhood and being an athlete. And we're so excited to have her today. Welcome to Bikinis After Babies, Sarah Bornemiss. How are you
Hi,
today?
I'm good.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.
Thank you
I
so much for
am
being here.
Yes. And I don't think I've had a chance to congratulate you in person on winning your pro card this past summer. But when I saw that pop up, I was so excited for you because I've followed your journey since I met you backstage. And I'm really excited to learn more about that and then also share that with our fabulous listeners.
Yeah,
So to
thank
start, I'd
you.
kind of like to know what got you started in competing when you began your journey in 2019.
You know what? My husband doesn't necessarily remember this. I think his version is a little bit different, but I used to run marathons, half marathons. And I was just kind of losing that passion. And I was like, I need something different to focus on. I need because I'm a person that needs goals. Like I need something to work for. And I was working with my trainer like 2 days a week, and the other days I ran. And I was telling my trainer, I was like, you know what? I think I want to kind of start training. Like I'm going to do a bikini competition. Am I going to compete? I don't know, but that's kind of the direction I would like to go in. And my husband was there at the gym during this conversation, and he was like, "No, I don't think, no, you don't want to do that." And I think, and somewhere along the lines was like, I don't even think you have like the body type. Like you're so, you're Hispanic and you're curvy. And I was just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna show you type of thing. And that's kind of like what prompted me. I mean, I followed a bunch of influencers, bikini competitors, and I was just like, no, like I like the drive, I like the discipline. I my my nutrition was terrible in the sense of like I never ate, and when I did, it was like not the right amount. And so I just wanted to just change my entire lifestyle, honestly, and just like be healthier.
Did you initially get into running? Like, were you always doing that, or was that something that you did after having children?
After having children, after I had my son, so I grew up playing volleyball. I wasn't always like active. It was always like, what am I going to do? Like P90X, things like that. I never was very consistent. And then after I had my son, you know, didn't really have childcare, and I just started running. And I would put my kids in the double stroller, and we would just run. And then I was like, well, now I'm going to shoot for like running a half marathon and like always just better my time each time I ran. And so that's kind of, it was after I had my son that I started focusing on running.
Cool. So, what was that journey like then, transitioning from like minimally weight training and not really eating, coming over to like the bodybuilding world? Like, was that a
It
huge
was a
adjustment?
it was a shock. I was like, how much food am I eating? Like, because I
I
was
still
put on
feel like that
a
shocks
meal
people.
plan. Yes, I was
Hmm.
put on a meal plan. So I just followed whatever the meal plan I was given. I did, and I was like, I have to eat this like every 2 hours. It was a huge adjustment. A little bit at first, like nervous because I was like, I'm eating more food, and I'm
Hmm.
trying to like change my body. Is this going to make me, bigger? Because like growing up as a female, you hear all these things. And, I had this misconception of, you know, eating a ton of food and, wanting to nourish my body. And so it was a huge change. Like I went from 2 days a week with a trainer, following a meal plan to every day, and working with a trainer like 5 days a week. And then like minimal cardio initially. Obviously, once I hit into a prep, then I did more cardio. But I was like, my entire like workout journey is changing. And it was like a little bit of it was different because I was nervous, but I was ready to embrace something because when I commit to something, I do it, and I'll trust the process no matter how scared or worried I am.
So,
So fascinating. So how was it watching your body change from not doing the marathons and all the half marathons? How was it watching your body change with eating more food and weight training?
I was shocked initially. Like I started dropping weight, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "This is so backwards." But
Mm.
um, yeah, it was really cool to see like, the constant training, 5 days a week training, eating all this food, and my body was changing to what I like visioned, like
Mhm.
how I would like to see my body progress. So it was really cool to see, like just this whole process.
so what was the like time frame from beginning that journey to like actually stepping on stage? And then what was that first show like?
So it was very short. Like, so I was just kind of, I started it like maybe like a month. I started kind of, like eating a lot, but then like the journey from like, okay, we're going to start prep to stage, it was really short for me. It was like 12 weeks. Um, and my body responded great. And then we went to stage to the show. And I was like in shock because I worked with a local coach. So I didn't have a team behind me. It was just me. My trainer went to the show. My coach went to the show. Um, and honestly, I didn't love prep the first time around because I had my experience with my coach wasn't the best, like it wasn't positive.
Mm.
So I felt uncomfortable around him. And so he showed up late to the show. Um, and so I was like by myself. I didn't know like to pump up. I didn't know anything. Like I didn't have any guidance whatsoever. And
That's
so the
crazy.
show is like a culture shock. Like thankfully, like I made friends with girls backstage and I just kind of followed and imitated what they were doing. Um, and then my coach obviously showed up as the show was starting, and but it wasn't like what I get now with my current team, where it was like full on, like, okay, this is what you need to do. It's like I didn't have that support. So the show day was really initially turned me off from the
Yeah.
sport. I was just like, I don't think I'm going to compete again. Um, but then I found a new coach, and something inside me was like, I know this, I want to do this. Like, I like the discipline, I like the structure. It was just something inside me where I was like, I want to keep going. And then I started with Fit Body Fusion and my coach, and I like love it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that first experience wasn't like the positive, like most positive. I did well, but it was not positive
Yeah.
personally.
Kind of like you
I
went
think
through the
that's good.
motions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good that
At
you
least,
kept going because so many people have that
yeah.
experience and then they never compete again. So if they're
Hmm.
listening to this podcast, keep going because you could keep
Hmm.
going and turn pro. So I
Yeah.
think that's really encouraging.
Yeah.
And never like
Awesome.
be as scared. Like initially, I was scared to change coaches, like because was at the gym I worked at, and so I was just like, but I was like, no, I'm not going to continue with him.
Hmm.
He never sent me my reverse diet after the show. So I was like scared. I didn't know what to do. And I researched stuff. So I was like, I am not just going to go and eat whatever. So I ate
Hmm.
like I was in prep for like a month.
After the
And
show.
mm-hmm. So
So
it
when
was
did
just,
you decide that you would take this all the way and start pursuing your pro card?
it was like, so I did that show, kind of took a year off. And then the following year, Jesse and I were talking about competing. And I was just like, something inside me was just like, it was just like, I just want to do well. That's all I want to do. I just want to do well. Just, this just gives me something to always, you know, always try to beat my last self. But something inside me was just like, no, like you can you can do this. Like you can go pro. Just show your kids like it's okay to like go after your dreams. And then maybe a part of me was just like, well, I'm almost 40. I wasn't 40 at the time. I'm almost 40. I'm a mom of two kids. Like I was also very aware like this lifestyle is a little bit different than like the other moms around me. And so I was also kind of worried like, about like, well, what will people think of me type of thing. But I just had this like, just this little urge like in my pit of my stomach where I was like, you can do this. And, but I didn't say it out loud for like the longest time, but I knew like I wanted to pursue this.
Felt it.
Hmm.
It's so different, all of us raising kids, we all know what it's like to go to cheer competitions, baseball, volleyball, soccer, and bring our foods, bring our backpacks, bring our stuff, and we aren't eating concession stands. We aren't drinking, the sugary Gatorades. We aren't a part of that. So it is scary. I remember, like you said, I remember being like scared and not talking about fitness and never saying anything. Always wore a hoodie, and just like keeping it all to myself until like you said, that little thing in you is just like, no, like it's okay. Like be you and just like do you and show your kids and inspire your kids. And I love that. That's inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it shows
That's a
them
really
too.
like my,
Oh,
oh,
sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead, Julie. I was just saying, like, and that's also too, like, my kids are one of my biggest whys. Like, like showing them, like, you set your mind to something and you commit to something, do it, no matter how hard it gets, no matter what curveball is thrown at you. Like, you can overcome whatever obstacle like arises. But if you have a dream, go after it. And, you know, don't let anyone stop you from doing it.
What was that like when you got to tell them, like, your mom's a pro? Like, I think about that moment all the time. I've come close
Yeah.
so many times and I'm going for it again this year. And I dream about what it'll be like to call them and tell them and show them that card. Like, are your kids as excited as you are? Like, were they very involved in your journey and cheering you on?
Yeah, so they're involved. I remember not this past season, my season before 2021, because I took off 2022. I remember my last show, I came home and I got like sixth place in Masters and I didn't place in Open. And my son was like, "No medal?" I was like, "No, no medal, bud." I tried my hardest, but it just wasn't the time. And then this season, they were like, they knew, like, I'm going after this. Like, I'm working my butt off. I'm going to do whatever I can. Um, and, I missed my son's like baseball tournaments when I went to shows. And so where I won my pro card, my husband went to that show and he sent in our group text message thread to our kids. He sent the video of the awards ceremony, the finals, where I got my pro card, and
Yeah.
they were so excited. They were texting, and my son like made me a card when I got home. There was like a card, and he's like my son is like the most. He's like that really outwardly like excited kiddo, whereas my daughter's like excited, but she's reserved. So she's like, "Congrats, mom." But she also like talks about me to her friends. So um, they were just really excited. And just seeing them when I got home and like just seeing the final, like what could be. And, it's really, it makes me emotional because it's like, I just want to make them proud.
Just get
Me
chills of
too.
you
So,
You
telling like
sharing
this
that is the same.
story. Like I
Yeah.
do. I'm like, oh, like that's
Yeah.
so,
yeah,
oh,
I
I
think
can just
those are
imagine how
such
proud they
important
are.
lessons too. Like, I think sometimes like, oh gosh, how long am I gonna keep going for this? But I think if I just give up, like I will tell them like that it's okay to just stop. Like if you can keep going, you should keep going, and
yeah,
when you finally reach that goal, it shows them like this is what happens if you just don't give up and you work hard. I think those are such important lessons for kids to have. So I
absolutely.
think that's
Especially when they
beautiful.
play sports too. Like my
Hmm.
son's an emotional baseball player. When he performs badly, he gets emotional, and sometimes he like gets in his head and he like essentially gives up. And it's like, no, it's okay to be upset. Yes, I was upset over, not doing well in universe prior to the Masters, but like, did you see me once like get down on myself? Did you see me once give up? No. Like that was just an obstacle that, I had to overcome. I didn't show up that weekend, and that's okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. Showing them that we can overcome obstacles is always like the best thing with my son. Like, no matter what schedule we have, no matter what's going on, birthdays, holidays, no matter if we have to be somewhere, if we have tournaments, games, no matter what something throws at us, like if he knows like I'm getting ready for a show or I'm so close to a show, like he knows that like okay, if I have to get up at 4, do I have to get up at 5? Do I have to like cook the day before? Do we have to like do this the day before to get everything ready? And just showing that like no matter whatever life throws at you, like be like prepare yourself for it and you can reach your goals and like prioritize yourself so you can set yourself up for success. I love
Yeah.
being able to like show him that, like you said, it's in sports, it's like that with him.
Yeah. And I also my kids always know too, like no matter what, like I'm on this journey, I have goals that I'm trying to do, but it will never get in the way of me being a parent either. And so like, tournaments, all these sports stuff, I'll make it work. And, it's a little bit challenging, and I can't eat out when we go to restaurants with the whole team, but I'm still present and I'm still there no matter
Yeah.
what, too.
Yeah, exactly. I think that might be what probably dissuades competitors from thinking that almost like, let me like put off having children because I need to like do this now because it's such a selfish sport. But I think as moms, we prove that it doesn't have to be. I think that narrative just like needs to go away because
Hmm.
if anything, like we're just taking from ourselves, right? Like we're just pushing ourselves to, fit everything in so we can still be at all the games and spend the entire weekend at tournaments and whatnot. So it really can be done. I don't think it's selfish. I don't think any mother is like, no, I'm going to do me first. Like nobody,
Yeah.
as a mom, you just don't think that way, right?
Yeah.
So,
I
but
mean,
I
it's
think,
not an option, I don't
right.
think. It
No,
can't be.
no, exactly. So, one thing I did want to talk to you about, because this is something that a lot of people ask me about, is stepping outside of your comfort zone. And you talked about just being on stage. It's not your vibe. I mean, I definitely talked to girls who are like, oh, I used to be a dancer and I love being on stage and I love the glam and everything. And you mentioned that that is not your comfort spot. You don't
Hmm.
love being up there. So tell me a little bit about what it was like getting out there and how you overcame that to become a professional in our sport.
I mean, I still to this day, the stage is like show day is like my least favorite part of this whole process. Like
Same.
I do not like attention on me. I don't like people looking at me whatsoever. And so like my initial show, my first show, I was shaking. I I don't know how I like got over my fear because I literally have a fear of like public speaking in front of people. But I feel like I black out when
Hmm.
I like go on stage. Um and I honestly I just say a prayer. I'm just like, God, just let me nail my routine, just let me overcome this and then get out there, do my routine, and then once I'm in like in a group for like call outs, then I settle down a little bit because it's not just me up there. But I don't know. I don't know how I do it. I just pray and I black out a little bit, but the stage is a really uncomfortable situation for me.
Do you think like part of it came from just the confidence of like maybe feeling more prepared and being more experienced? Because I mean, I feel like I've kind of witnessed your journey, having like
Hmm.
met you in, I think it was 21, we met backstage, and then kind of like seeing your journey and like even just in your photos from the show where you won your pro card, like you have so much poise and confidence. So like, would you say like some of that is like personal development as well as like the researching and practicing of the
I
posing?
think so. I think so. Just from daily posing, just kind of practicing, but telling myself like you worked so hard, like you can do this. And I will say the show that I won my pro card, it was the weirdest, not weirdest day. I wasn't feeling well, but I just had this sense of calmness over me. Before I went on stage, I wasn't nervous whatsoever. I was calm. I was like talking to the girls backstage. But standing on off to the side and I'm seeing my husband out in the audience. I'm seeing like familiar faces and I'm seeing the judges and I'm just like, I deserve to be out here. That's like the thought I had, but it could have just been like the practice and believing in myself too. That like is how, again, it's very scary. I don't like it, but I think just like I practice a lot, but just being confident and having confidence in myself that I did the work. And that's all I can show.
I think that will help a lot of women because, like Jillian said, it's probably one of the top things people say is how scared they are. Whether it's public speaking, being stared at, being the center of attention for like even if it's 10 or 15 seconds, but you're still that center and people just,
Mhm.
they don't like it. It's so uncomfortable, it's nerve-wracking, it's scary. Like I expedite shows and I've had to help. I've been backstage where even the day before shows, I've had a girl come up to me in tears already the day before because she's just so nervous. And I think, like you say, practice and just telling yourself, like, you did the work, like, you deserve it, like, you can do it. And like
Hmm.
getting yourself there is,
Yeah.
it'll help a lot of women.
And I also too think like for initially, I was never one to post like stories or anything with myself in my bathing suit. Um, it was always like kind of like maybe more training. But as I continue down this journey, posting my check-in videos, posting, and it's not more so it's not for attention, it's like accountability. But like that also gave me like, you know, people, it's kind of just like being on stage. Like
Yeah.
I'm showing others my routine. I'm trying to just be comfortable with this whole process. And I think could have played a role too in it as well.
Yeah, so many people talk about the stage of just like they love the physique and they love the journey and they want to see where they can take their body, but they're absolutely terrified of the whole thing. It looks like a dance routine and
Hmm.
they're like that the stage is for my kids and their sports. Like I haven't done anything like this in like 20, 30 years. So, and I always tell people like that is like one of the elements that you can really control. Like you can't obviously control your emotions without some rehearsal and like, without sort of gathering yourself and being in a good mental state. But I think like as far as the routine and the posing, like that is something that you can practice and get really good at. Like, even if you don't really ever wear heels. But I just think a lot of people really battle with that. So I think that will help to kind of just, hear that it can happen for anybody just with time and just knowing you belong up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Practice, like practice smiling. I don't smile in checking videos because I feel silly smiling. But that's one thing I do recommend doing is like smiling, like just practicing, pretending you're out on stage. Being on stage in a itty bitty bikini isn't like the most comfortable. And we're out there getting judged on our physique, which that's scary in itself too. But we know the reason why we're getting, critiqued and things like that. But just practice every day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I did, and like it. it really helped. And just I invested in a posing coach too. I think, having that and just, you know, that just made things a little bit easier too for me, I think, this time around.
I agree. Having somebody to help, like, even if you watch so many videos, even if you practice like an hour, 45 minutes a day, every single day, all the time, and you get comfortable, there's little like transitions or what transition might look best for you. Are you like, is your foot placing really right? Could it be slightly better? And like you said, those slight critiques, to have like another eye on it, to be like, maybe do this instead of that, could like change like everything. But you just don't know
Yeah,
unless you have like a second set of eyes.
absolutely. You may think an angle looks better on you this way, and they're like, nope, from this angle, this is how you want it. So
Hmm.
the set of eyes too, which also then you get comfortable posing in someone else too.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to talk about is you've opened up about some of the struggles that you faced with your health and your
Hmm.
hormones. And so I'm sure a lot of our listeners have had that experience or have like maybe heard somebody not be so open and share just the little pieces. And then it's terrifying to see, what somebody could experience. So would you kind of like to share with us what that journey was like for you?
Yeah, so after my 2021 season, um, I just I started like to feel terrible. Like my body was reacting poorly to foods. I just did not feel normal. I felt terrible. So then I invested in working with a company to where we did extensive blood work, where we tested like my blood, we tested all foods, but come to find out my body was in like post menopause, and like my hormones were tanked, and on top of that, every single like food that I was eating, like, I mean, it was like sheets of foods that were causing inflammation in my body. So I removed everything from my diet, everything. I was like, I need to feel good. Um, so it was like starting over, trying to hit my macros initially was hard because I was like, I don't even know what to eat. But I was also, then I had to get on like hormone therapy, essentially. I was injecting myself with, um, like hormones just to get my body back into or get out of basically menopause. I wasn't even 40. And I felt like, women, like, you just don't feel right when your hormones are tanked. You don't I my stomach hurt. I felt I was inflamed. I just did not feel myself. And so I did this therapy essentially for months, and it was uncomfortable. It made me emotional. I gained weight. I was bruised from these injections I had to give myself. Um, and not to mention I was just trying to figure out the best foods that I can eat, and just just trying to get myself to feel good. And on top of all that, my skin was reacting poorly to everything too. So it's like I was breaking out, like literally every day I would break out. And it was an emotional period of time. Just because you're like, what is wrong
Yeah.
with me?
That has to be
And it's
so
not,
hard, like going
yeah,
from like competition shape where you like are, feeling really, at your best physical condition to like starting kind of at ground zero and things just unraveling that. And that's
yeah,
really tough to go through. How long
yeah.
did it take you to kind of decide like, okay, something is going on here? Because I've talked to so many people that are like, I should have pumped the brakes months ago and I wasn't listening to my body.
Yeah, so it was a few months. I want to say, so North Americans was my last show. So that's September. I didn't get blood work done till like January.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I feel terrible. Everything I ate, like I just was like, I feel terrible. Like I just did not, like, it's hard to explain. I just did not feel myself. Like
Yeah.
moody. I didn't, I, my clothes didn't fit right. I just did not feel good. And it's not that I didn't follow my reverse. Like I follow everything to a T. So it's just like, what is going on?
That's
Yeah.
even worse too when you're like doing everything you feel is right, is like what you're supposed to be doing, rather your training, your diet, and you feel just terrible. And you dealt with it for so long before it was
Hmm.
like, I need to go get this blood work done.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine having to go through that.
Yeah. And I mean, thankfully I spoke with someone who recommended a company, because like if you just go to your normal doctor, they're not going to do like that, what you need to do to really
Yeah.
see like the underlying issues. And so, yeah, and did it, was it nice spending X amount of dollars to figure out what's wrong with me? No. But in the end, like it made me healthy.
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
think it's so important to, do whatever you need to do to make yourself healthy.
Well, it makes you knowledgeable too now, because
Hmm.
that like getting your labs done now or getting blood work done now, you look at it so differently.
Yeah.
You can know like this doesn't feel right, this isn't right, this doesn't look good, something's wrong, and you can see like your labs and be like, this isn't okay,
Yeah.
this isn't right. So you have that knowledge for like your whole life.
Yeah. And I will say that experience made me so in tune with my body. Like I'm always aware of my body, but it made me really in tune with my body where I know if I put something in my body, I'm like, ooh, no, like food wise, I'm like,
Mhm.
no, I'm gonna stop eating that.
Mhm.
Um, and like it just like every little thing, like I am so aware that I can read my body and like make corrections. Like as an example, after my last show, I was like, why am I so inflamed? Like, no, it was before my pro show actually. Universe, I had such a hard time. I was inflamed, like bloated, and I was eating the same foods. Um, and that was, I had poor control during that show. And so after we got back, we had like 22 days before Masters. And literally, the Sunday before peak week, I was just reading, just researching. And I told Jesse, I said, Jesse, I'm cutting out all these foods out of my diet. I'm going to follow the low FOD diet. I'm reading it. This is what I'm eating. Like these are staple foods in my diet, and this could be an explanation as to why, you know, my stomach was so inflamed. I couldn't like suck in my core or anything like that. And we made the correction like peak week, but it's because of my experience in going through that health phase where I've become so in tune with my body that I know what to do. And then after I winning, like I had to cut out chicken out of my diet because I was like, I need to do blood work because something's going on food wise. And found out chicken was causing inflammation.
That's a
So
tough one.
Yeah.
when in
Yeah.
all this, are these mostly like reactions to foods, or was there like were they able to identify like an underlying cause of what triggered all of these hormone imbalances?
No, I don't think it's related to food at all. I think that it was just that was added into everything during that period of time. I will say my mother went through menopause when she was like 30. And so
Oh,
genetically, I probably have like a predisposition
oh,
to
yeah.
going through menopause a little bit early, but so that could be play a role, but no reason as to like what happened,
Because I think
during
it can be
that
so
time.
hard. Like, I went through something similar, and I'm like trying to like defend my sport and my lifestyle, and I'm like, it's not it, it wasn't the prep. And everyone's like, well, it's just bodybuilding, like it's probably, you just probably shouldn't do it because that's exactly what caused all these problems. And it wasn't. Like, I have been competing for a while. It was just a huge amount of stress in my
Yeah.
life that caused a lot of issues, and I think doing a prep on top of it didn't help.
Yeah.
So
And I think that has a lot to do with it. Like I will 100% support what your opinion. Like, I don't think it was my prep whatsoever. My food intake never got extremely low. I didn't do crazy amounts of cardio. Um, I think genetically, I think I had during that time period too, a lot of stress personally. Workload for me is always stressful. So it could have been just a combination of things.
Combination of
And my
everything.
body just kind of saying, you know what, like, F you, like, w- this is what's going to happen type of thing. It's just like a fight or flight response.
Hmm.
Honestly, I don't think it's related whatsoever to bodybuilding
No.
whatsoever.
No, I agree. I think it just makes it hard for like the outsider. Like definitely my mom's like, well, sweetheart, like maybe, you shouldn't be competing. And I'm like, Mom, I'm telling you, like, and I think it almost makes me more appreciative for this lifestyle because I think that I knew something was wrong because I
Mhm.
knew what feeling good felt like. And, other people maybe don't feel great all the time. So they're going to miss things that, we as athletes, because we're more in tune with our bodies, can say, hey, something like doesn't feel right. And we have the resources in the industry with our coach or other people we connect with that we can pursue these things. And I think that that's a wonderful thing to be proactive and take
Yeah.
care of ourselves.
think it's very easy for the outsider to point at our sport and say something's wrong with it
Hmm.
because of the way we eat. We eat so simplistically, so clean, so nice, and we track everything and we're responsible, we're accountable. And unfortunately, it's just the outsider's point of view is like, oh, you don't eat fast food once a week, something's wrong with you.
And you
And
exercise
so
all the time. It's the worst
Mhm.
thing. I'm like, it's good for you.
Yeah.
What are you talking
I'm so
about?
Well,
jaded when it comes to this. I'm just
yeah.
like, hey, listen. Do you want to attack me or do you want me to attack you? Do you want to play this game?
Do you
Like,
ever get
Well,
like the
then,
water comment? Like, isn't that too much water? I'm like,
yes,
I don't think I've seen you drink
yes.
water all day.
Yeah, my husband says I drink too much water. Sometimes where I was like, I'm drinking like almost 2 gallons of water a day, like, uh, and he's like, that's just too much. You're like so little, and I'm like, no, I like just work my body really hard at the gym, and you know, it needs that.
mhm.
Like I just need that water. So
When I first started prepping and I kind of went through like what you went through in the sense of the amount of food that I was eating was so much. And then I was losing weight and I was shocked by it. And my husband had been in the gym his whole life. He'd seen competitors. So like he kind of knew a little bit. But it was so funny when we would go out, people would be like, oh, she barely eats. And he would just lose it. He'd be like, she eats all the time. That's all she does is eat. I have to get her chicken all the time. And it's like, no, just because we eat more but we eat healthier, it's
Mhm.
fueling our body for what we're putting our body through, and it puts us in tune with our body so we know that we feel good, we're healthy, and if something is off we can tell and we can
Yeah.
address it.
Yeah, there's a huge misconception on, we starve ourselves. And, there may be a point in your prep where your calories will get a little bit lower.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and it may not be every prep, but certain preps, yes. But, the misconception, oh, you don't eat fast food, so that's why, or you don't eat at all. Like, no, like I ate fast food, and there's lots of people who don't know that they feel like terrible because of all of this stuff. Whereas, like, we eat clean and we know how our bodies feel to be fueled by the right foods. And so when something's off, like, yeah, we're aware of it. Whereas to the individuals who don't know you know, do not understand this industry and everything behind it and what we do, of course, like, there's always going to be comments, but if only they understood, hey,
Mm-hmm.
why don't you can eat like this and see how your body feels. And again, there's no judgment whatsoever. It's
Oh
just,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's a matter of like, wow, like my my body feels really good when I fuel it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know there's probably people that are, on their journey and, maybe they think they need to enter a health phase and it probably had to be, a lot of research on your own to find the right things, but I think that provides a lot of inspiration seeing you have like come back after that. And, you know, you didn't leave the sport forever. You just took that little break to get better and coming back into 2023. And one other thing I wanted to talk to you about is just some of like the things that you endured as a mom, which can make it difficult to, you know, put your energy into training again. You know, you didn't miss a beat as a loving and caring mother and as an entrepreneur, but sometimes it can be difficult to be able to have that focus on competing. So can you share with our listeners a little bit about what that experience was like and how you managed to juggle that and pursuing your competition endeavors?
Yeah, so my son, so I'll start with my son. So he he has a disability. He's diagnosed with mixed executive receptive disorder. Um, and we found that out when he was probably about 4 years old, but he's had a speech delay. But long story short, he almost drowned. So that was kind of, I think, the causing, like what kind of caused all of this. So before his second birthday, he almost drowned. And so he's always been um, like my special little one that like always had to require, like he just required more. And then my daughter, um, and this all came out when I started my competition, my bodybuilding journey. She just suffers from like some anxiety and like mental health. And so I actually took some time off. It was during my health phase too. So I put like my coach on hold, everything to solely focus on my health, but also like at the time my family needed me. My daughter was going through some really dark moments. Um, she was like, she would make comments like, I should just kill myself. I should just, and that I was just like, I can't like even focus on anything else right now. Like, I have to make sure she's okay. Um, it was just, she was just sad all the time and I didn't even know what to do. And so just, I had to just not even focus on tracking food or worrying about check-ins. I it was just more of like letting her know I'm present. My husband is there for her. Um, and it's still there's still times to this day where like she needs to be my focus. And no matter if I'm in prep or anything like that, like, she'll have me up if she's at a birthday party, she'll have me up 1 o'clock in the morning all night just texting me because she's having an anxiety attack. And so it's, you know, finding the balance of, okay, I'm going to do these things. I'm in prep or, I have to meal prep, but I will always make sure like whatever, I'll stop whatever I need to do to focus on whatever the issue is. And with my daughter, and then my son, going back to my son, he has therapy every week after school. I have to help him with his work. Like he cannot, like, he needs like that individualized, like one-on-one attention for things. And so it's like, finding that balance uh, while not losing myself.
Has to be so scary, like to have those days and well, and I'm sure it's almost like every day just having to like just, like you said, put your time on hold and like focus on her and that fear every day to make sure she's okay. And is she
Hmm.
doing better? Is your family doing better?
Oh yeah. Yep, she's thriving. She still has her moments. She still, gets upset and she'll text me. I'll try to, if she's out, I'll try to work her through this. When she gets home from school, or my son, like I will stop whatever I'm doing and I will make sure they're okay. Um, and then I'll just continue about what I need to do. And that's another reason, like big reason why I'm up at 3 a.m. because that way I can get, if I'm in prep, I can get my cardio, I can get whatever training I need done early before they're up so I can give them whatever they need throughout the day.
Yeah. I I love that you share that. And thank you so much for sharing it because so many times I hear from people that, like, when they check in with me, or I just heard from other women, like if there's something, obstacle, struggle, hardship in their life, it's they throw every kind of structural thing away because they need to 100% focus. And it's like, well, before you do that, do you think like you can focus some of this stuff on yourself while you give 100% to your family? Is it Are you able to do both? And you are, like you said, you are able to structure and give 100% to your family and be there and be available and be the best mom that you possibly are, while still like having structure to your life, knowing that it's going to make you healthy and make you happy, and it's going to allow you to keep giving more and more. And I love
Yeah.
that you share that, like, so
Yeah.
much.
Like if had I not, especially because when my daughter has these moments, it takes a toll on me mentally. So like I need to focus like on myself too, because when they were younger and I ran, like I kind of lost myself. Like I didn't have like any structure. I just, yeah, I ran, I trained, they trained with me essentially for running, but like I did not have anything that I did for myself. And so like no matter what, again, I'll always be there for my kids and I'll stop whatever I need to do. But like I can't lose myself again because like that it makes me a better mom. It makes me happier when I do these things for myself too. Again, I won't like put my kids to the side. They always come first and my family always comes first. But like this helps me to release. Like if not, I'm gonna like explode because of like anxiety of what's going on with my daughter, or being overwhelmed because I'm worried about my son and his therapy and, how's he doing in school with his IEP? And like, I have all these worries. So, like, this is my outlet too.
Yeah.
So I can't, like, no matter what, I can't lose that.
Yeah,
I love that.
I do too.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that that
Yeah.
was, just something that I wanted to touch on. And you talk about it like so beautifully on your social media. And, I just think that's a message a lot of people need to hear. Like, I almost feel like they just need somebody, anybody, just to give them permission to like budget that time for themselves and just know that everybody's going to be okay. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you're stepping away from your family or that you care less about them because you have to care about this other thing. Like, we're, built to be able to do so many things and wear so many hats. And so if anybody's on the fence about doing something like this, like, it can really be done. So I
Yeah.
think that's going to
And
be
it's
really
your
inspiring.
therapy. Like, you have an outlet. Like, we as moms, you said, Jillian, we wear so many hats. Um, and oftentimes I mean, I hear stories all the time. I lost myself after I had kids.
Mhm.
And it's okay. Like find yourself. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
gonna make you a better mom. It's gonna make you happier. It's okay. Do it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Well, I do like to make sure that I ask all of our guests. It's a two-part question. The first part, I want to know what your next goals are and what you're working towards. And then we also like to have each of our guests share their tips for balancing it all, whether it's a scheduling hack or whatever it is that you do to be able to fit it all in. So, first part is what are you working on and what are you
Yeah.
training for right now?
Right now, I'm just in an improvement season. No show in scheduled for 2024. We're going to take the year off and focus on growing and building. And I have just some like personal stuff that has come up around like the holidays and stuff like that. So, my coach wants to make sure, mindset is right, everything like that. We're good to go. But yeah, I want to get on stage and be competitive on the pro stage. And so, and I'm natural. So, that building time it's going to take time. 41, can't put on muscle like I'm 20 these days. So it's just, I have to work hard. So take off 2024 and hopefully early 25 start hitting the pro stage. And, my ultimate goal is like Masters Olympia. Why not?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
that's
love
the
that.
ultimate goal.
Hmm.
So,
Awesome. That timing should work out pretty well because I don't think they're planning one until 2025 and
yeah,
you'll be like
yeah,
ramping things back up and then there you go.
yeah.
Awesome.
So
That's so
we'll
awesome.
see. One day I told my kids, I said, I'll be on that stage one day.
Now you have
I
to
may
do
be
it.
right, like I may be really old, but that's a goal of mine. So,
I love it. That's awesome. And then what is your tip or trick or tips and tricks for those
you know
who
what?
need to hear how to juggle it all?
Yeah, so just honestly, like I'm a behavior analyst, so I like know how to prioritize. When I have a goal in mind, I know like how to break it up to be successful. So I think just like to juggle it all, like hey, do not like stress yourself out. If you feel like you can't do this or get this done or this, like it's just gonna stress you out.
Hmm.
Um, because I get like that myself because I like to, make sure I accomplish everything. But just start small, whether, even if it's just start meal prepping a little bit. So that way, it gives you time to, make sure everything with your kids are done or, you know, work or whatever. Start meal prepping. Just, I would say start small, have like these small goals and then build upon them. Um, and and give yourself grace. Like everyone messes up. Like don't, do not give up if you mess up. Do not give up if you know, get overwhelmed. Just give yourself grace. Like, especially as a mom, like we do so many things.
Hmm.
Um, we can't, we can't beat ourselves up over anything.
Yeah. Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Wow, it was so great to have you. I have so many takeaways and selfishly wanted to have you on just to hear all of that for, just our own inspiration, but I know our listeners are really going to learn a lot from you. And so we will share Sarah's information below so that you guys can follow her and follow her journey to the 2025 Masters Bikini Olympia.
Well, I
And
appreciate you having me on too. Thank
yeah,
you so
thank you so
much.
Thank
much.
you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks for
All
listening,
right.
everybody.